I want to start out by acknowledging the passing of Voletta Wallace. Got a phone call yesterday from part of the Tupac and Biggie family letting me know of this very sad news. And I wanted to start out by just talking about how this is really a family. We're all family. Every one of you that's in this community is one of the family members. And we may not agree on things, we may have differences, we may have had things that happened in the past, whatnot. But in the end, this is a family like many other families. And I'm sure some of you have, high school friends that you reconnect with from time to time, or college friends that you see and reconnect with, or, maybe it's in this community, the hip-hop people, the death row family, whatever it is that you're connected to. But we all share a connection because of these two murders. And we are a family, and we have our differences like all family members. And when somebody that's part of this family passes, I think we need to acknowledge it. And Voletta Wallace's passing is something that really is a game changer because she was the driving force between the two civil lawsuits trying to find out what happened to her son. And I think it was more about what happened to her son than it was the money. And that's why the lawsuit eventually got dismissed and was never refiled. And now it's likely that it won't be refiled. It doesn't mean that it can't be refiled, but one of the plaintiffs in that case is now no longer with us, and the window for filing a civil lawsuit is coming to a close. And so it's such a huge loss for the community and for this family.
Now we need to check out another part of Michael Carlin's theory. Reggie Wright Jr. and the allegedly dirty cops who he and Suge Knight was bringing into the inner circle of death row.
You got a lot to cover up, y'all.
Freudian slip.
You got a lot to cover up.
We got a lot to cover up.
Well, who do you think killed Tupac?
I believe Orlando Anderson killed Tupac.
Are Sharitha and Reggie Wright Jr. telling the truth? Michael Carlin doesn't think so.
You got a lot to cover up, y'all.
Freudian slip.
You got a lot to cover up.
We got a lot to cover up.
So guys,
what's going on?
Greg Kading is out. His lawyer won't let him do it, so
we've been waiting around for Kading all day, and
and now
he's not
he's a
coming.
no-show.
Really, I wanted to talk to him because there's so much to ask him.
Yeah.
I have released today a document which is a transcription of the audio taped interview of Kevin Hackie by Russell Poole and Fred Miller. And I just want to highlight a few things about it. You guys can all read it yourself. This document is now available. It's public. And you can put it out on all your own channels too, if that's something that you want to do. This interview was taken on May the 12th, 1998. And in the room was Fred Miller, Kevin Hackie, and Russell Poole. And they were doing this interview to get to the bottom of the Biggie murder, but this does also overlap with the Tupac murder. And those of you that have been following this channel, you know that Russell Poole actually opened a murder investigation into Tupac when he was at LAPD, and he was the first LAPD homicide detective that was investigating the Tupac murder as well, because he felt that these two murders were connected. Now, there's a few things that are in this document, and this is why you guys should read it. There's Fred Miller talking, which when you think about it, Fred Miller was the head of detectives at L.A. Robbery homicide. So he was like the head guy. And he was talking about how it was known that Reggie Wright Jr. was controlling the drug trade in Compton. It's not me saying it. And it's not even Russell Poole saying it. It is the detective who's in charge of all the detectives sitting in on this interview with Kevin Hackie and talking about how Reggie is involved in the drug trade, controlling the drug trade in Compton. And we all know that Reggie caught a case and he went to prison for drug trafficking and money laundering. And this likely was happening before all this was happening. And also, let's not forget that the Compton Police Corruption Report, which was very difficult for me to find, and I found it down in Compton, and that details how 96 kilos of cocaine were missing out of the evidence locker. Numerous trips to the evidence locker. People knowing about the raids before the raids happened. And who were those people? It was Reggie Sr., Reggie Jr. knowing about the raids before they were going to happen, and they went and conducted pre-raids. And we also have learned about the PAO book of Keefe D, and Reggie was in the PAO book of Keefe D. So this goes back years. Those guys have had a relationship for years. And you can hear that on the Bomb First channel with Reggie just really wanting to put Keefe D away. And that's why I say that it's ineffectual counsel that Keefe D has had. He has not had great attorneys. He has not had a great investigator. He's had mediocre representation because immediately you look at, did Keefe D have a relationship with somebody that Reggie is close to now? And is there potentially jealousy? Is this a motive behind Reggie testifying at the grand jury? And that's never come out. Not that I've seen anyway, but it should have come out. And did Reggie have a relationship with Keefe D in that drug business? And I read Keefe D's book, and I was like, yeah, right, for sure. He was rolling with cases of Cristal and cases of Dom Perignon. And I was down in Compton talking to people down there who would know. And I said, yeah, it's got to be all bullshit, right? All these cases of Cristal, all these cases of Dom Perignon. I mean, one bottle of Dom Perignon is about $280. Now, today's dollars. Cases, I mean, we're talking about he had to be rolling to afford that. And I was told, no. He had money like that. He had big money from the drug trade. He was rolling. And, you know, if Reggie's name's in his PAO book, so Reggie was obviously rolling like that too. Big money. And, you know, because whenever we hear about things like, you know, millions and millions of dollars and what have you, we're always a little bit skeptical about that. But yeah, number of people that were in that game have confirmed to me that Keefe D was rolling like that. He had big money, but he also had some kind of relationship in the drug game with Reggie. And at some point, that relationship must have gone sour because Reggie is hell-bent on seeing Keefe D hang for the murder of Tupac. Other things that are salient about this Hackie thing, you guys can read about it yourselves. You don't have to take my word for it. Read the document. But one of them is about Bobby Finch and how Kevin Hackie called him, you know, a few minutes after Bobby Finch got shot. And Reggie and Kevin were talking about how Bobby Finch was dead. But in my investigation down in Compton, knocking on doors and handing out postcards and writing an article in the Compton Times and putting it out all over Compton, I have yielded results from that and found out that Bobby didn't die right away. Bobby Finch was shot 11 times. 11 bullets hit his body, 13 shots were fired. Those shots were fired at the car. They went through the door of the car. And if you think about it, what happened in the immediate aftermath of Tupac being shot and Suge being shot? The whole thing was a complete and total fuck up. If you were trying to keep Tupac secure, it was a fuck up. If you were trying to keep Suge secure, it was a fuck up. If you were trying to kill Suge, it was a fuck up. If you were trying to kill Tupac, it was a fuck up. The whole thing was a clusterfuck. And why do I say that? Well, Tupac and Suge were not dead. They used gangbangers to carry out the hit. The bullets didn't hit the mark. They weren't good shots. So the whole thing was a fuck up. And what would you need to prove right away after that? That you could carry out a hit that wasn't a fuck up. Maybe you had to take matters into your own hands. But 2 or 3 minutes after Bobby Finch is shot, Kevin and Reggie are speaking on the telephone, and Reggie says, I already know all about that. And Kevin says, how would he know about it unless he set it up? Well, from being down in the hood, we found out that there was a cop, probably Reggie, we don't know 100%, but we've been told it was Reggie, but we don't know 100%, but who took off his belt with his gun, his badge, laid it to the side, and Bobby Finch punched him, knocked him the fuck out, humiliated him. He had to be dragged back to the patrol car, and whatever drug dealers they were shaking down at the time, trying to extort money out of, that had to wait because this person was knocked the fuck out. And it only made sense that there was get back, that the motive behind killing Bobby Finch, and it's not mistaken identity, guys, it's not mistaken identity. Why do we say mistaken identity? Because we want to take away motive. We want there not to be a motive. Oh yeah, it's just a case of mistaken identity. And who handled that? Well, that was being handled by the Compton PD. And there was no investigation. Nobody in that neighborhood remembers the police coming around, knocking on doors, taking eyewitness statements. Nobody remembers a red car, is what Bobby Ladd and Tim Brennan put out in the affidavit. They remember a blue car. They remember a few minutes of conversation happening before the shooting happened. That means it was somebody that was known. And why do the police the Compton PD put out disinformation about Bobby Finch's murder? Why did they do that? Because they were behind the murder. 13 shots fired, 11 shots hit Bobby Finch's body. Does that sound like a gangbanger who doesn't get a lot of practice shooting? That sounds like a cop. That sounds like somebody. And where were those bullets fired? They were all fired through the door. That car, and I talked to the man who actually owned that vehicle, and the car looked like it was from a war zone because those bullets had all been fired through the door. So they were proving something very salient with the Bobby Finch murder. Number one, that they could carry out a hit that wasn't a complete and total clusterfuck. And number two, that they could fire those bullets through the door and hit the mark. And they hit Bobby Finch. And that was a professional hit. We don't know who pulled the trigger, but most likely it was somebody who gets a lot of practice, most likely a cop. And there was no investigation. Nobody in the neighborhood was asked anything about this. And when I did a FOIA request at the sheriff's, they have no information about the Bobby Finch murder. None, zero. Because none of the files were turned over to the Compton PD. And we went through numbers about that in a previous video. And the files are never turned over to the sheriffs when the sheriffs take over. So back to this. A couple minutes later, Kevin Hackie and Reggie are talking about the Bobby Finch murder, but Bobby Finch isn't dead. They worked on him at the location for about 25 minutes. They got him to MLK Hospital. They were trying to resuscitate him, and they thought they actually could get a pulse and whatnot, and then they actually cracked his chest and massaged his heart because they tried to keep him alive. So for at least 45 minutes, Bobby Finch was alive. And so while Kevin and Reggie are having the conversation that you can read about in this document, Bobby Finch is alive, and they're talking about him like he's past tense, like he's dead. Why? Because with 11 shots hitting the body, you just had to assume Bobby Finch wasn't going to make it. You would have had to have intimate knowledge of that to know that Bobby Finch was not going to make it that day. And so they were already speaking about Bobby Finch in the past tense. Bobby Finch is dead 45 minutes later, and he was killed by somebody with something to prove. Whether it was get back, whether it was proving that you could actually carry out a hit that wasn't a fuck up, but there was something to be proved, and the Bobby Finch murder is the key to solving the entire Tupac and Biggie murders.
What up, Ballpurse family? How y'all doing? Hey, John, you got a lot to cover up, y'all.
You know, we got a lot to cover up.
Puffy was going up the stairs, and he said, I don't care if Tupac died, I don't care if Biggie gotta die, and I don't care if Suge gotta go to prison for the rest of his life.
We got a confession letter on how everything went down and who's responsible.
Now, getting back to Russell was following in the footsteps of his dad, and he was able to work through the LAPD and have all the things that had to be done within the LAPD. He certainly knew the streets very well. And circumstances in his case were far more tragic because he was killed in the line of duty.
Hold your head on repeat. Listen to the beat again and again in my playpen till Tupac appeared to me. Finally I see. How do we keep the music playing with these devils betraying? Rap games, ghost, hocus pocus flows, exposing my foes and their John Does. Mad respect, Russell Poole detect, murderers checked. Now rest your head, bless the dead while the message spreads. Machiavelli said, my killers have not yet bled.
They got to be sorry for what they did.
Like I said, I had two of the toughest guys for him, and Reggie pulled them off of me. It didn't have to happen. I told him to send 5 guys from the club to there, and they never sent nobody.
Suge was set up.
I'm like, cuz, you going to Vegas? You going to Vegas, cuz? They finna try to do something to me.
I mean, murder is pretty simple. The first person you go after is the spouse.
Perez and them was all involved. They were trying to kill me too, but see, because Perez and Reg was good friends, and Perez and Sarita and Reg is great friends, and so all those three together was trying to plot.
Why would I want a paper trail when I never brought him around nowhere? So if I'm gonna hide him in secret, you think I'm gonna let somebody catch a paper trail? They were paid cash by Snoop.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It was a murder for hire hit.
If it was an actual shooting in Vegas, it's on camera in Vegas.
There's witnesses that said they gave no sex to kill me. So I knew it was cameras everywhere in Vegas because I went to UNLV.
All of the corners in Vegas was equipped with cameras.
Those guys go back and watch the film, they was already stalking Pac, watching him. So that just tipped the iceberg when something happened. But there was a plan already to do something to him.
How come Reggie is Suge's bodyguard and he wasn't with Suge?
We went to Las Vegas Metro in '97. After Biggie was killed, I think there's got to be a connection between the two. The politicians said they don't want to solve it, so they told the investigators put it up on the shelf.
I'm quite sure if they saw the first one, they would saw the second one because it's the same circle of people.
You got a lot to cover up, y'all.
Freudian slip.
You got a lot to cover up.
Orlando wasn't even the shooter, you know? He was actually a good kid, too, you know?
Trickery, witchery, foolery, flop, plot to take out Suge and Pac. Traffic stop starts the clock. Collusion of industry, street and cop. Filmmaker takes one last shot. 60 seconds after, no more laughter. Half dead whips out Fatal's Glock. Pop, 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 pop. Quite the head turner, they's dad came over Nate's burner. Got 'em on Porky Squawker, surviving a real shocker. Fat ass said, we got a lot to cover up, y'all, and that's what's up. Stripped the straps, unloaded gats, Buntry shot back. 3 men in the caddy, just smoked a fatty, but it wasn't Sugar Daddy.
Supposedly there's a hit on Suge.
Wounds are life-threatening, but serious, not in critical condition at this time. And the person, as you are already aware, who was the passenger in this vehicle, is a known rap performer by the name of Tupac Shakur.
With Tupac, I still got a 45 bullet inched in my skull.
We've been informed that doctors have told the family members that they expect the rap star to once again recover from his injuries.
They know who was going on behind all that stuff, you know? How much would it cost to get rid of Suge? They said, what you mean by get rid of him? He said, kill him.
They put a hit on Suge.
Reggie's dad told me that. Well, he said, Michael, if anything happened to Suge, this is what he told me. Anything happened to Suge, Reggie would run the majority of the company.
It's the same people, same circle of people. It had nothing to do with me, you know?
Read this on the paper. Yeah, Reggie would carry most of the burden.
It come from because they want the ownership of my company.
Hey, John, you got a lot to cover up, y'all.
Doctor said Pac's on the mend, surrounded by friends. Foes called in to make kin spin, finish him off. Pac shook the bed, for his life he pled. IVs to the vein, go straight to the brain. Poison would ease his pain. It only took a drop to make his heart stop. D.O.G. Scorsese created the distraction, lulled protectors in action for the final transaction.
The head of gangs and homicide from the Compton PD is Reggie Wright Sr. and the head of security at Death Row is Reggie Wright Jr.
The vice president on TV talking about taking my record off the shelves. Police, you know, every time they see me, they think I'm a cop killer.
It was an assassination attempt on Suge in Las Vegas, who would have everything to gain.
I could have jumped out on his ass in Vegas, but it was killing me. But Snoop was like, hold on, don't fuck this up. So.
And I was told it was an operation. It was a planned assassination.
How come Reggie is Suge's bodyguard and he wasn't with Suge?
He wanted to be Suge Knight so bad.
Where stuff really come from, it come from because they want the ownership of my company.
Police did not follow up on the most basic lead.
Just happened to have officers in the right spot at the right time, were able to radio ahead.
The cops that they trying to connect to Death Row were never hired on Death Row.
He had no relationship with any police officers.
When I got shot, it was 37 cameras.
All the artists at Death Row was willing to come with me.
There's another rappers who wanted Suge taken out.
I'm scared of no one.
My pitch was to real record labels and to the company was to have police officers that could be good witnesses and for the inmates.
You crooked ass cop.
I didn't need to take from niggas. I was institutionalized motherfucker. If I felt threatened by anybody, you want to know the real. Nigga would have went to jail for a long time fucking with me.
Get everything you deserve.
Perez and Sarita and Reg is great friends, and so all those three together was trying to plot.
You always will tell you, those are Reggie people.
Suge didn't let none of my security ride with me. Because I feel like they finna try to do something to me.
Some guys, they need some ex-cops to work off duty or,
Police corruption cannot exist. Cannot exist unless it is condoned and tolerated by upper police management.
Greg Kading is out. His lawyer won't let him do it.
You crooked ass cop.
Could it be that the police department had something to do with Tupac's murder?
Coroner's hearse, idols nearby, a dear mama goodbye. Rushed autopsy, quick cremation, police celebrations. Enemies snicker, Haitian bootlicker. We the people mourn, hearts are torn, bulk of the nation, radio stations, next generations.
And that's what happened. Our lives was in jeopardy.
Soldier in the hospital there, something wasn't right.
You know, situation was, me and Pac had a little falling out a day or two before that in New York.
Now, you don't take no ass whooping like that unless something's up. Unless the goose is cooked.
Orlando wasn't even a shooter, He was actually a good kid, too,
No, Orlando Anderson, here he is, the only Southside Crip standing in a casino. He was planetary.
Wow, the last time I saw him, he was laying in the bed, holding on to his last breath.
Yeah, John, we got a lot to cover up.
Sold cops throw shade and blame, fill the frame. Orlando's a throwaway patsy, denies the murder flatly. It's a cover-up, a chaos merchant's cover-up. Can't stop the truth from bubbling up. This shit's a cover-up.
Nobody cared about Pac having the right amount of security at all, period.
No one cared.
It was not mentioned at all.
No one cared. And every time I ask Reggie, he gets really defensive.
Soldier in the hospital there, something wasn't right.
Interfering with the Vegas case. He's a lieutenant in Compton, LAPD, whatever. Interfering with the Vegas case.
Jimmy is close personal friends with Reggie Wright Sr.
Because Pop, that weekend before he went, was talking about pulling away from the labels and starting their own.
And let's go and try to be a distributor on our own. At that time, it was 6 majors, and he was trying to be number 7. I remember he was talking about calling it Lucky 7.
And we don't want that, man. It's enough brothers out here dying already.
Yeah, John, y'all got a lot to cover up. Y'all motherfuckers got Pac. Do y'all know how much that hurts our hearts?
Quail made you famous, your voice made you dangerous. Victim of jealousy, pour out your Hennessy. Death is calling me.